It happened on a night when the world was sleeping, when the noise of cameras and tabloids could no longer follow him, when even the echo of his own fame seemed distant. Michael Jackson, the man everyone thought they knew, stepped away from the spotlight and into the silence of the night. For years he had carried the weight of a crown he never asked to wear. To the world, he was the king of pop. To himself, he was something far more fragile, just a soul searching for a place to breathe. On that particular evening, Michael left Neverland quietly. No flashing lights, no announcements, no bodyguards surrounding him like a fortress. Just one driver, one trusted friend, and a restlessness that would not let him sleep. The car glided down long, empty roads, past trees bending in the wind, past the loneliness of wide-open spaces. The driver said nothing. Michael barely moved. His face was pale, his eyes locked on the horizon. It was as if he were following a call that no one else could hear. Hours later, they stopped. The place was not a stage, not a studio, not a hotel suite. It was a field, wide and bare, where the grass stretched endlessly under a sky painted in silver light. The moon hung low, glowing like a secret lantern. The night was cool, heavy with silence, except for the whisper of the wind brushing through the grass. Michael stepped out of the car without a word. He stood there for a long time, staring at the sky, as if measuring the distance between himself and the heavens. His bodyguard stayed near the car, watching, unsure if he should interfere. Michael's figure looked almost ghostly against the light of the moon. His shoulders were slouched, his arms heavy, his whole frame carrying the exhaustion of a man who had given too much of himself to a world that only wanted more. For minutes, he didn't move. He just breathed, slow, uneven, like each breath was a negotiation with life itself. And then, without warning, he began to move. At first, the movement was small, a turn of the wrist, a slide of the foot across the ground. It didn't look like dance. It looked like something breaking open from deep inside. The grass bent beneath his shoes as he moved softly, as if the earth itself was carrying his sorrow. His hands lifted, not in perfection, not in choreography, but in desperation. His silhouette became a trembling confession against the silver glow. The dance grew heavier. His arms swung wider. His feet dug deeper into the ground. He turned, spun, collapsed, rose again. Each motion seemed to carry a question he had no words for. Each fall to his knees looked like a prayer. He stretched his arms upward, shaking, as if demanding answers from the sky. The moon became his spotlight, the wind his orchestra, the silence his audience. And in that field, Michael Jackson, superstar, icon, legend, ceased to exist. There was no king of pop here. There was only a man aching, bleeding, confessing through motion. His bodyguard would later say that it was the most haunting thing he had ever seen. Michael wasn't performing. He was surrendering. He was pouring out years of betrayal, ridicule, misunderstanding, loneliness. Every pirouette carried the sound of voices accusing him. Every collapse to the ground carried the weight of a childhood stolen. Every reach toward the sky carried the ache of a man who had given his life to music and felt empty in return. For nearly an hour, he danced. No music, no applause, only the sound of his breath, ragged and sharp, cutting through the night air. At times he would cry out, not words, just sounds, like a wounded animal. At times he would laugh, bitter and hollow, and all the while, the moon stayed above him, silent and unblinking, as if it had been waiting for this performance all along. Finally, his body gave in. Michael collapsed to his knees, his chest heaving, sweat dripping down his face. His white shirt clung to his skin, glowing faintly in the moonlight. He stayed on the ground, silent, staring upward, his lips moving as if speaking to someone only he could see. Perhaps it was God. Perhaps it was his younger self. Perhaps it was no one at all. Minutes passed. The bodyguard dared not interrupt. The air was thick with something sacred, something unexplainable. And then, slowly, Michael stood. He walked back toward the car, his steps unsteady but determined, like a man who had left a piece of himself behind in that field. As he opened the door, he paused. His voice was faint, almost a whisper, but the words carved themselves into the memory of the man who heard them. "The world thinks it knows me," Michael said. eyes still fixed on a glowing moon above. But the moon is the only one who really listens. He entered the car, closed the door, and never spoke of that night again. There are no photos, no recordings, no headlines, only the memory of a witness and the whisper of the grass that once carried his steps. But maybe that is why this night matters. Because the greatest artist the world had ever known chose not to reveal his soul in front of millions, but in the silence of a field, under the eyes of a moon that could not betray him. And when you think about it, maybe that's the closest we'll ever come to knowing who Michael really was. Not the glittering costumes, not the sold-out tours, not the headlines that painted him in light or darkness, but a man alone, desperate to be heard, offering his truth not to people, but to the sky. We like to think of Michael Jackson as eternal, untouchable, almost superhuman. But that night reminds us that he was something far more real. He was fragile. He was human. He was a soul dancing against the silence of the universe. And maybe that's why his music still lingers long after his voice was silenced. Because behind every beat, every lyric, every step, there was a man who carried pain deeper than most of us will ever know. A man who sought healing in the only way he knew how, through movement, through rhythm, through surrender. Perhaps the most haunting truth of all is this. The performance that revealed his truest self will never be seen by the world. It will never be replayed on screens. It will never be applauded. It belongs only to the night, to the moon, and to the memory of one man who stood nearby, unable to believe what he had witnessed. But maybe in some way, that's exactly how Michael wanted it. And now I ask you, do you believe it? Do you believe that the man who gave the world its greatest stage moments left his deepest performance to the silence of the night? If you felt something while hearing this, then perhaps this story was meant to reach you. Comment below, share your thoughts, and subscribe. But only if you're ready to keep uncovering the stories the world was never supposed to tell. Because sometimes the greatest truths aren't written in history books. They are whispered under the moon,